What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the No Fun League. Today, I'm joined by AJ Perez, an author for Front Office Sports, who I think does really good work for what I think is a surprisingly undervalued niche in sports journalism. And that's like something that I hope to cover more in depth with my podcast is sports business and things of that nature. Like, I think it's Front Office Sports, Joe Pompliano, and then occasionally Mike Floria. And why, after working in the industry for so long, why do you think it's so undercovered, even though there's so much potential for interesting stories?
It can be kind of nerdy, like my PFF story. It's a little nerdy. It's kind of a story about nerds, and they're kind of these people who a lot of scouts these back a decade ago, and a lot of people didn't really give them much. These numbers. How do you quantify an NFL player, whether his value? I mean, we know the stats. We know rushing, passing. We know those stats. How do you? And it was kind of like what baseball went through a decade prior. Going back to Moneyball. And there's a lot of resistance to these kind of things, and the fans aren't always a fan, especially in baseball. You have the shift and everything else, and they're really, kind of, you can argue to really hurt the sport. Now, this Pro Football Focus is a dominant. They have all 32 NFL teams. They have pretty much every major college team and over 150 non-NFL teams. That includes colleges, UFL, CFL. And they all use these this data, and they all make judgments, not to a certain degree. They all have their in-house people as well, but they use these to judge players, whether a player needs, whether his player is, it's whether to give him a contract extension or even draft somebody. They use these numbers, and this it has a big impact, but it's also behind the scenes. Outside of Chris Collins, we're talking about it, and he's the majority owner, talking about it on Sunday Night Football on NBC, where he tries to explain these stats, and PFF has a partnership there. He already tries to quantify what this means and what this data tells us. But it's still it's a little kind of more of it's more of a front office thing than the average fan. But with fantasy sports and sports betting, you're seeing analytics being used more for that as well. So.
No, so I had Arif Hassan on my podcast after he wrote the Draft Network story, and for very similar reasons, I DM'd you on Twitter yesterday, because it's a company that I use all the time that I pay for, and you can clearly see that the product is lacking in certain ways. Like the app for PFF is absolutely awful. Like it is.
See, I'm not even expert enough to even know that. I've used it, and I'm like, yeah, it's not really my thing. But I don't, I'm down to the Apple app, which is like the most bare bones sports app ever created. I just want to know the scores. So you're right. And there's still no Android version of that app. And they spent a lot of millions and millions of dollars to develop that app. And as you said, it's not the best. And that was part of, this is part of one of many things that has gone wrong the last couple of years at PFF.
Which I think is at a really interesting time because, the last football season, we had JJ Watt come out in absolute defiance of PFF and everything it stands for. And then you had like the PFF people like Sam Monson, soundbite it for their intro and stuff like that, that's just good. That's just, well played banter between everybody involved. But I feel like stats being used, like stats like that, which are subjective, which are determined by people and not like a known formula, impacting player contracts and draft decisions, that is always going to be, approached with skepticism by an athlete, especially, reading your story. We see like leadership and things like that are very up in the air and cloudy.
Yeah. Like who are the people making the grades, and how do they come to those determinations? And if those people were stable, were there for a long time, and now they're gone, at least the people they weren't necessarily the ones who were watching the games and doing the precise grading every single time, but they also were the managers of those people. And when they leave, the talent drain, what's are those stats that they're putting out for the 2024 season coming up, would they have been the same in 2021 or 2020, back when Neil Hornsby, who started this whole thing, was still there? I mean, there are many questions, and I think there's probably a lot of things they have to do to reassure teams and their clients that nothing's changed. We're still PFF. We're still doing the groundbreaking stuff that we're known for, and there's value in us. Now, my story also talks about these high tech up and comers who could be doing it in an automated way, mostly through optical, computer tracking, which is going to be used this coming preseason by the NFL for to see if that system could replace the first down marker, measuring, which is like, it's hilarious. A league that makes billions and billions of dollars a year still uses a 10-yard sticks. That's pretty. I mean, there's sensors in the balls. The ball sensors aren't always accurate. Also, they can't. The why optical tracking, the visual tracking is more. It's being used more than the sensors that are in the shoulder pads of the players, or this is all part of NFL's next gen stats, which has been around for 4 or 5 years now. It's sometimes the balls don't get logged out correctly, and you see the ball being thrown on the sideline, and it's being tracked like it's being on the field. So there's, so they have to go through and root out those, and it does take. No matter what happens the next few years, there's still going to be humans who have to manually log certain things. But it's also teaching these AI models and machine learning models, what is an out route, what is a stunt, what is you have to teach these machines what the basic plays are. And in the NFL, that's a lot of different, when you think about how many different plays and how many different styles of play on offense and defense each team plays. That's not an easy thing to do. That's why PFF is going to be all right for a while. But at a certain point, if there's enough data given in the NFL, they can go back and, they can go back some of these systems and look at going back years and years and try to teach these new systems to these AI models, and and they could really kind of do this in an automated way. Now, well, that does take out the human element. There's always a human element on top of that, because who's teaching these AI models, what these plays are and how they should be graded? Because it's still going to be humans who are going to be inputting this information. So there's always going to be bias, but it's trying to root out the bias. And I know JJ Watt have these issues with it, but there's always going to be bias. And there's bias in scouts, and scouts like certain guys because they went, for personality reasons. We don't know. Is that quantifiable? Is that going to mean this guy's going to have an 8-year, 10-year NFL career and be very productive? No. So it's all, there's always a human element. And I think that's still a major part. You can't have players who are, causing problems off the field. You can't have players who are distractions, and we've heard that thrown around even for the dumbest reasons when it's not never a distraction, like we saw with Kaepernick. But it's always different. The owners, do have final say, and some owners get more involved than others. And, there's so many different variables, and PFF is just one of many.
Oh, for sure. And so speaking of super nerdy things, I did a 8-episode series on my YouTube channel for redrafts from 2014 to 2021.
I saw one of those. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm using Pro Football Reference and PFF mainly to use stats in their careers so far. And the sack numbers and sack numbers were almost always off between Pro Football Reference and PFF. And I could not figure out why. It's
kind of like, I'm a hockey guy more than anything. So in the NHL, the block shots and the hits are kept by the home team. They're not kept by the NHL. They're not kept by someone who's controlled by the. So there's always little wrinkles there, and especially when you talk about half sacks, who do you give that? And that was probably part of the formula there. I think the NFL sometimes gives someone a half sack or gives someone a sack that may not deserve it, or maybe he started the tackle and that quarterback fell before the line of scrimmage somewhere. Those are the discrepancies, and those are judgment calls. Those are judgment calls. How do you split a sack up when 3 people hit the quarterback at the same time? There are certain things like that that lead. For one game, you're not going to make a big difference. When you total it now 17 games, it does create a little imbalance.
Oh, 100%. And I want to transition a little bit to just media as a whole, because I know you've covered that as well. And I think that we're just in a really interesting spot, because I think sports media is quickly becoming mainstream news in a way where people just want to generate clicks, and no one really gives about.
Well, I don't think there's less news now. That's the problem, and that's in the mainstream too. We have a lot of talking heads on TV, and people think that's what I do, and I don't. I'm a talking head right now, but I stick to what I report and what I know. I don't speculate on things very often. I'll give my analysis on something maybe, but I try to keep my opinions out of it. I'm a journalist. You're supposed
Mm-hmm.
to, and keep my, to no conflict of interest, decrease any biases that I have. And even when Chris Collinsworth doesn't talk to me, it's, there's things like that. I mean, it would make a better story if he talked to me. That's why I want it. I want it for my readers.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's just kind of like, especially the Stephen A stuff with a lot, not just Stephen A, all this WNBA stuff. And FOS covered the WNBA. I covered this myself years ago before all the issues. And it's all about, people don't realize how a couple owners in the WNBA have held the entire league back. And it's like, and I've been covering this. We've been covering this at FOS. It wasn't news to us. We knew all about this. We knew about how hard it was to get the charter flights going. I'm glad they finally did it. But and there's still stories coming out, like we saw, I think it was Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg over the weekend. How much they're losing millions and millions. I'm like, you really have to. There's also owners who don't mind, who know that this is like Mark Davis with the Aces, who know that the product's going to be profitable. It probably is right now, and it's going to be even more profitable the next TV deal. Now, will that take the NBA to have a big bump and then the WNBA tags along? Who knows? But WNBA is definitely in the equation of getting more money to the NBA and the WNBA, because it's hard to find WNBA, and it's like so many different networks. It's hard to look for it. You have to look, you don't know if it's NBA TV or this or that or Ion TV or something else. That's hard. And it's like, you're gonna get more eyeballs with a more consistent TV partner, and one that ESPN's paying like $60 million a year right now. That's gonna be a lot more under the next package, and it'll start trickling down. But it's, the whole thing is, yes, the NBA subsidized it, and before the WNBA, there was the ABL, which was in San Jose, where I grew up, and they were probably a better league, but they didn't have the NBA's backing. So, but now it's taken off, and now all these the record attendance, record TV numbers, and they have to wait another year really to get to that, because of the the TV deal doesn't expire yet. So it is interesting to see all the talking heads who are now experts on WNBA. And I never not going to say I am one, but I know a lot about the league, and we covered it at FOS, myself and a lot of other reporters here. For ever since I got here 4 years ago, and probably before I got here, so it's, we all, a lot of us appreciated that women's sports were about to, take off, and it was long overdue. And now it's great to see it happen. Now I don't like all the politics. I don't like, some of the talking, which has drowned out a lot of the good things, not all the good things, a lot of the good things. And obviously Caitlin Clark, and she's done so much to bring attention to it, and now she's become kind of a talking point now. So
she's being used as a pawn so that everybody can get their takes off on either side, which is really disappointing given how good she is and given how good the NBA is. Like, I haven't seen First Take talk about how good Asia Wilson was playing or anything like that, which is annoying, but I'm sure we'll.
Yeah, she's won 2 titles in a row. Yeah, you think a team that won 2 titles in a row should get a little more play?
Maybe, but no, like, they're phenomenal athletes, and like I think we're slowly getting there. And like, obviously, it's a meme on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, like, oh, like, we're starting to talk about WNBA players like costing us our parlays, which means like we're actually having a real conversation about this.
Oh, that was my other big feature recently, is on sports betting, and the next big issues with that.
Different story. I'm working on a like video idea and like doing some research for that right now. But I specifically wanted to ask about Dove Kleiman, and full transparency, I have not had the opportunity to read like all of your stories on it, but
it's been a few.
I am aware of like, that one podcast was like, oh, Dove still had access to our account, and the shit posting from there.
He hacked. Yeah, that was
and
Super
then
Bowl. Yeah.
I unfollowed him in like 2020 for the sole purpose that I thought all of his like Tampa Bay Super Bowl tweets were very pro Brady, and I am a known Brady hater, so I was just annoyed. I was like, I'd rather just, Ari Murov was coming off at the same exact time, so I was like, I'll just stick to that. But, things like that, like AI accounts, like, fake accounts, which I know that you also did a story on. all of that, like the potential for shit to go south is so high right now. And that's before we even get to like the Stephen A's, the Clay Travises of the world, and them actually talking. Before we even get there, the potential for things to go wrong is so high that like
I just don't see the need for these accounts. I don't know. They fill a niche that I don't care for. I know the beat writers, I know Schefter, I know these guys. I trust them, and that's fine. I don't having an intermediary like an aggregator account taking their information and giving it to me is not really helpful. And then to get more engagement, where I got on the whole Dove thing last time was Mark Davis, that for congratulating him for a kid that's not his. Yeah. I mean, I was like, and it was before the community note went up, the tweet was deleted, and Dove wasn't really known for that. Dove was kind of more. JPA and ML were, and Dove to me, I've talked to him a couple times over Zoom, and we've shared a lot of messages over the years. And he was critical over the exact same thing that got me on the story again. Like that Mark Davis tweet. I'm like, that's which was like led to me. I'm like, okay, maybe he did sell his account, and I did more digging, and it looked like he likely did, according to my sources. Which is, then the people who bought it, who I pretty sure bought it, remember everything, they didn't want to talk to me, because if they did say anything to me, that's a terms of service. They could, people sell accounts all the time. Whether it's TikTok, Instagram, there are sites out there you can sell your money or sell your site and get paid through that site. There's a lot of those out there. Terms of service, people, no one reads terms of service, and it's not under under Elon, who I can't get an answer out of on any of this stuff. They don't seem to care. So it happens. But yeah, it's just kind of like, we don't know the person behind it. And I've talked to the real one twice. But I don't know who's in charge now. And what got me on it more was that the TikTok one is definitely not him. That's why I started. I was like, that is not him. And I'm like, now who is this guy? So I went on my Twitter friends helped me out and gave me one tip that I was able to nail down about who that guy was in Florida. But yeah, so it's been, we all have to be, no matter it's especially with the election this year, everything else, we have to be better news consumers. We have to know where the information is coming from, the trusted sources, and not just going to places that validate your line of thinking, whether you're left or right. And we need to do a better job at that. So, and that includes sports too. I mean, we need the aggregator accounts. You don't know many of them. NFL rumors, NFL rums. No one knows who that is. I can find it out. I know who JPA and ML are. ML blocked me, but I'm not going to out them or anything. But it's just if you're a source of news and people don't know who you are you really a source? I mean, if people don't, if you reach out to me in DM and we're talking, I'm pretty engaging on social media. People know where to find me. It's usually at the hockey rink or my gym or my house. So, I'm pretty easy to find. So it's like being able to track down, me is pretty easy. And these other, if you're employed by ESPN or Fox Sports or The Athletic, we know who those people are. They're making a living doing this. And so, people just need to be a little better, and that includes on social media, following the right people and not amplifying stupid stuff. I mean, it's stuff that's, including from these kind of accounts that we're talking about. You just got to, you don't be part of the problem, follow the right people, amplify the news that's real and not sensationalistic, garbage.
I purposefully, obviously a lot of jokes came into my mind when I saw the TMZ report this weekend about Bill Belichick, but I purposefully did not like or anything, any of them, because I was like, I have
TMZ's one of the good ones. So I don't know. So you're right. TMZ, but you know what TMZ is all about? And they've broken so many huge stories from Kobe's death to, Ray Rice's video. They've exposed a lot. What have these aggregator accounts ever exposed that has meant anything to our national discourse besides Mark Davis's kid that's not his? I mean, there's just, it's TMZ. But I know you're talking about TMZ. I worked there. I worked there briefly, so I know a little. I know some things, but
nothing against anybody that works there. I just have a personal vendetta because they broke the Kobe news the way that they did.
Oh yeah. No, That was I just stopped working there a couple days before that. So.
Perfect.
Yeah, so it was great. Yeah, I was actually hanging with my cousin, and everybody around me was like, "That's TMZ, though." I'm like, "They don't get deaths wrong." I think they got one singer died. They had it a few hours early before he was actually, he died. It may have been Tom Petty, if I remember, but that's it. I mean, their sources when it comes to those kinds of things are better than anybody else's, and probably because they pay for it. But but yeah, it's like they don't get the big things wrong, and they do things like that. Yeah, I saw that the Belichick stuff and the cheerleader coach. Yeah. I was like, don't. Good for him, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. My last thing that I want to ask you, in line with everything that we've talked about, is what is the craziest, most like, holy crap, I have no clue that this was real or this happened. Like, what is the craziest moment that you've had in your career so far?
Geez, like a story that I didn't think was true ended up being true? Oh man, that is a great question, and you put me on the spot there. Geez. I'll go with Dan Snyder. I did a lot of reporting on Dan Snyder while he was still the owner of the Commanders. And, I live here. I live 10 minutes away from the headquarters. You hear so many things. And Dan Snyder is not the most beloved person. He's still not the most beloved person. I mean, he now lives in London, but he's not the most beloved person. So a lot of people, including those with NDAs and stuff, were talking, and I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of them, and I'm hearing things in the parking lot after hockey or something, and I'm like, that can't be. And then you hear that, and you chase them down, and one of them was the holding back ticket money from the NFL, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty major claim there. I got to be sure about this, and I was, and we went, and to FOS's credit, we had a story up within a couple hours, and the team denied it. We had a longer story 2 days later. It had more details. The team denied it. The team used to put out press releases on all my reporting, and not all, some of my reporting. And what ends up happening last July in Minnesota, when Josh Harris was approved as a new owner, at the same time, the NFL released their long-running investigation of Dan Snyder, which verified everything I reported. Everything. And it was with a little more detail than I had. And yeah, it was like he was holding back ticket revenue from the league. Yeah. And I was, that was one. I would say that one comes to mind because I heard so much stuff about Dan Snyder, and some of it, may have been true, but you have to be careful. He has a lot of lawyers, and I also, as a journalist, you want to make sure everything you report is accurate. So, there's stuff that a lot of dead ends, but there, and I focused on, I think that when you start hitting the owners, other NFL owners in the pocketbook like Dan Snyder did, this is why he wasn't going to last. The NFL never had forced an owner out like the NBA, MLB, and every other sport has, but NHL too. But they're, because these teams are handed down with many billions of dollars, handed down generation. That's how most of these owners get the teams, is they get handed down. Their father dies, their mother dies, and they get the team. The kids get the team. So that, they didn't want to make Dan Snyder an example, but they also don't like any owner holding back, even if it's a minimal. It's only, you're talking about a few $1 million in the grand scheme of things. When the NFL makes $12 billion a year off of U.S. media rights, with Amazon, CBS, NBC, all the Fox, everybody else, that's a tiny, tiny little slice. But any money being held back from the league is a big deal. So that was probably one of the biggest stories FOS has ever done, and that was a couple years ago.
How validating was it?
I was upset because they had just approved Josh Harris, and I was reading through that report while the Goodell was talking, and I'm like, I gotta write 3 stories now, and I was like, yeah, it was great, but I also knew it was true the entire time, or else I wouldn't have gone with it. So the team did a lot of the Dan Snyder days are long. It's only been 10, 11 months, but it feels like a much different area. Fans are much more upbeat. More reporting this week, likely on the RFK Stadium as a possible site. So, I'm still keeping my foot in the Commanders' pond there.
As a Giants fan, I'm happy that they have competent ownership. Which, if you ask Sixers fans, they hate Josh Harris, but at least he's not Dan Snyder. Really quickly, if it's okay, I wanted to ask what your thoughts are and general reporting on the DirecTV NFL lawsuit that Goodell testified for today. because
Yeah.
the only sports media that I really watch anymore is the Pat McAfee show, and he had Florio on today to talk about it, and I thought it was really interesting. So
Yeah, it could, with the multiplier in federal court, it could be, several $1 billion, and it could change the way, Google's through YouTube TV is paying $2 million, yeah, $2 million a year over the next seven, or now they have, I guess, 6 years left. So it's not insignificant, but also if they have to start charging less, that's the whole thing. It's like, that's great for fans, not great for Google. And then will that lead to a renegotiation and stuff? And it's shocking whenever the NFL gets to court. Goodell didn't even realize today. It sounded like knew he was in federal court for the first time. They got very close in St. Louis a couple years ago. They settled right before that, paid St. Louis a lot of money over the Rams' departure to LA.
mm-hmm.
They don't like going to court. They like to settle things, but this case they couldn't. I mean, I covered the John Gruden thing, and they won that one. They're able to get that case into arbitration. Now John Gruden's appealing that to the full Supreme Court of Nevada. So if they take it up, and there could be another hearing there. The NFL hates going to court because they don't want the dirty laundry out there. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing some of it. Now this is, we're just talking money and DirecTV and YouTube TV, where, this is not the end of the world. We're not talking about, we're talking about a lot of money, but we're not talking about life-changing things for the NFL. They'll find a way to recoup it. And I think they've almost, I wouldn't say they haven't tapped out the US yet. But they have their eyes set on European expansion. I think that's going to come in a few years. So they're going to make this money up anyway. So, but it is a headache for them, and it does. As someone who hasn't had Sunday Ticket ever, I have Red Zone. That's fine with that. I don't. I'm cool with that. Yeah, I don't. I had DirecTV forever. I was never one of those. Yeah, I'm an NFL fan. I don't have a team, so whoever Red Zone's showing, I'm cool with.
Fair. I'm a sicko, and I want to sit and watch Red Zone for 8 hours every
Red Zone's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's nothing. Red Zone's, I don't know how much it's not that much money.
So I got Sunday Ticket for the first time last year because it was on YouTube, and with the student discount, it wasn't as as expensive as it was. Like, I looked at the regular price today because I was just taking notes, and it's $480, I think, if you want Red Zone and Sunday Ticket for the season.
Oh, geez.
And I think
that's standalone, because I'm a YouTube TV subscriber, so it's probably less for me. That standalone tier is not cheap, man. That's a lot of money. You have to be a big sports bettor, a big fantasy guy, or really like your team and not living in the area. Because how many games are national TV these days? I mean, you got 5, right?
So many
per week, 5 per week. I mean, so you got Thursday, you got Sunday, you got Monday, and you got 2. Yeah, sorry, Wednesday 3 on games. Sunday. So there you go. So you get you're covered for a lot. So that's 10. So that's 10 teams. So you're left with 22 teams that are on, Sunday Ticket. So if you're one of those 22 teams every week, I guess it makes sense. I just I'm an NFL fan, but I'm not. I don't. I'll watch Red Zone like you, like all Sunday. But I don't need to watch one team in particular.
I'm very excited to see what Gold Zone looks like on Peacock this summer.
Oh yeah, they try. You're too young. Back in 1990, Barcelona was 92. Yeah, I'm gonna sound so old. They had 3 different pay-per-view. NBC had 3 different pay-per-view channels. This was not new. So they had you could watch pretty much any sport if you paid the pay-per-view. Got that package. I forgot what it was called, but it was we're going back 30. Oh Jesus, I'm old. 32 years. Wow. So it was like, this is something that's kind of like, it's nothing's really new in sports. You realize after a certain amount of time so that is going to be, it's interesting to watch. I'm not a big Olympics guy outside of hockey, and then the Summer Olympics, I don't know, I'll watch a little bit, I guess.
I think the way that I've just grown up, because my parents, I was born in India, my parents lived there, so they're obviously like cricket and tennis fans because those sports are big there. And then they come here.
Didn't USA Cricket have a big win last week?
Oh, they beat Pakistan.
Yeah.
So that was sick. And then they played India a few days later, and they held their own.
Yeah.
And I might be biased, but like, probably the best cricket team in the world right now. So,
Hmm.
and they held their own. They play again on Wednesday. But
Yeah.
I just like, and then they came here and my parents started watching like football. I got into basketball because one of my cousins was a huge Kobe fan. So now I'm just like, you can put any sport in front of me, like even curling, which I used to think was boring, but like I'll just sit there and watch it because it's entertainment. The last
Yeah.
Summer Olympics, I think I just let my laptop run every day and fell asleep watching whatever was live because it was in Tokyo. So all the
Yeah. Now we have a different time. Now we have the other time difference now.
yeah,
So it'll be a little more favorable for us in the United States.
oh, I just did a video talking about how this might be the greatest summer of all time for sports fans because we have the Cricket World Cup, both soccer tournaments, and the Olympics, and who knows how long hockey and basketball are going to keep going.
Oh, probably not much
Hopefully,
longer either of them. I don't know. I
I
just one of my buddies I just gave him crap. He's a Panthers fan. I was like, so we're gonna watch Game 6 on Friday. He's supposed to be over tomorrow. I'm like, we'll see.
I mean, if Dallas wins today, then Edmonton wins tomorrow, given how Friday and Saturday went. But
Yeah.
I hope that if Dallas becomes the first team to come back, thank you guys for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.